There are 5 fundamental principles with which a professional accountant must comply. Number 1 is what? Integrity. Integrity. All professional accountants must have integrity. That is, you must be straightforward. You must be honest in all professional and business relationships. You must be straightforward and you must be honest in all professional and business relationships. Okay. What does it further mean? This means that a professional accountant shall not be associated with reports, returns, communications, or other information where he believes that the information, number 1, contains a materially false or misleading statement. You must not be involved in such a situation. Number 2, when you know that the information contains statement or information furnished recklessly, you must not be involved in such situation also. The last one is when you know that an information omits or obscures information required to be included where such omission or obscurity will be misleading. When you are aware that there is an omission that could lead to serious damage or that could lead to a decision maker not having an informed knowledge about the subject matter, such must not be mentioned around a professional accountant. That's what we mean by integrity. Okay, the next one is excuse me. Okay, the next one is objectivity. The first one we said is integrity. The next one is objectivity. Okay, objectivity talks about professional accountants not being biased whenever they are doing their job. They must be objective. You must be objective. And remember, the opposite of being objective is subjective. If you're objective, you don't take sides. If you're objective, you must call a spade a spade. If you're objective, you must, at the face of everything, say the truth. Say it the way it is. That is being objective. And being objective also means you must not allow conflict of interest. And you must not also allow any undue influence of others to override professional or business judgment. You must not allow it. Okay? That is being objective. Okay? Relationships that bias or undue influence the professional judgment of the professional accountant should be avoided. That is, you must avoid it by all means. Okay, the next one is we have talked about 2 things now. Remember, we're talking about the set code of ethics. Code of ethics. Number 1, we spoke about integrity. Number 2, we just talked about objectivity, where we said you must be objective. You must not allow any influence to becloud your judgment. You must not allow any influence to becloud your judgment. Okay, the third one is professional competence and due care. Professional competence and due care. This is the reason for all professional institutions to set exams, test us, and be sure that we are competent enough to handle client and public information management, information reproduction and management. You understand it? Because we as accountants, we reproduce information, that is, you are being given some data, you produce those data to a final product, which is the statement financial report, and for users to use. So in doing all this, we must have what is called professional competence. You must be competent at doing it. Okay, you must be competent at doing it. You must possess the knowledge and you must possess the skill. Okay, that is another one about professional ethics and due care. Now, the other side is the due care, which is the B part of it. To have a due care means you must pay attention to detail. It means you must pay attention to detail. You must handle things with all form of carefulness, due care. You must have professional competence and due care. You know, there is a word they call it. What is this word again? Due diligence. That's another one. Before you form an opinion, you must have done your due diligence. You must have gone through it, searched through it carefully, and with all the tools that are necessary to be used and applicable. And you must be sure that whatever you're saying or you're going to report is done with all form of thoroughness. You understand it? Attainment of professional competence and maintenance of professional competence is, you know, professional competence may be divided into two separate phases. We have the attainment. When you attain it is when you are qualified, and maintaining it is when you keep nurturing your knowledge in terms of accounting, in terms of your profession, and so on and so forth. You don't stop learning. Keep equipping yourself. Keep equipping yourself. You understand it? Okay. Now, the next one we're going to be talking about is confidentiality. Remember, we just spoke about integrity, we spoke about objectivity, we spoke about professional competence and due care. The next one, which is the fourth one, the fourth code of ethics, is called confidentiality. Okay, confidentiality. Confidentiality is actually one of the keys that all professionals sworn to, be ye lawyers, be ye accountants, be ye tax professional, be ye doctors. Confidentiality, your ability to keep information within the scope of people that needed to hear it. That's not all. When you keep this information, nothing must set this information loose, come what may. Now, I used to give this example in my class to my people. The example is that if you're opportuned to sit at a board meeting where it was discussed probably the share price of the market share of their shares. Market price of their shares is about to drop, say about 50%. And let's say, for instance, you have maybe your wife, kind of, you know, not even your wife, because you're not permitted to be related to that. Okay, let's say a close friend has a very huge shares there. The confidentiality holds, you know, prohibits you from calling such a person or informing such a person of such a development. You have to be confidential in all the information you're given. That is, you were just being opportuned. You were just being opportuned to have it. A number of other shareholders would have been on that table with you, but they could not. But you were opportune to have such information. You must treat it as confidential as possible. You must not disclose any such information to third parties without proper and specific authority. There are situations where you have to let some information out, either by legal means or by authority that are higher than you, by their instructions. Then you are permitted to let it out. Okay, a professional accountant should consider the following: whether the interest of all parties, including third parties whose interest may be affected, could be harmed if the client or employer, consent to the disclosure of information by the professional accountant. Okay, whether all the relevant information is known and substantiated to the extent that is practicable. And the last one, the type of communication that is expected, to whom it is addressed. What we are trying to say is, you must take good care before an information goes out. Be sure the information gets to the right persons. Be sure the information did not set out what the public or what a third party must not know. It mustn't come from your end. You must not let it know, let it out. That is confidentiality. Okay, I hope we're following. Okay, the very last one, which is the fifth one, which is not the least, is professional behavior. Our attitude as professionals is also one of the tools that make ethics critical, because the way we carry ourselves, the way we do things, the way we comply with the laws and regulations of the land shows or separates us as professionals. You understand it? It makes us to be different. We must not be found disobeying the rules of the land. We must not be found, doing what other non-professionals are doing, and so on and so forth. So our behavior and our actions, I used to tell my students that our actions and inactions tells more whether we are ethical or we're not ethical, in all our dealings with our clients. Okay, I think that's all for now. Before we go, the next one we'll be talking about is what are the threats that usually face, professional accountants. What are the threats? Be auditors, accountant, management accountants, internal auditors, lawyers, bankers, etc. What are the threats? There are 5 threats that have been set out. Number 1 is self-interest threat, which is the threat that the financial or other interest will inappropriately influence the professional accountant's judgment or behavior. The next one is self-review, the threat that a professional accountant will not appropriately evaluate the result of a previous judgment made or service performed by the professional accountant or by another individual within the professional accountant's firm. That is, if the solution to not facing this kind of threat is get an independent person that will review your work. You understand it, okay? The next threat is advocacy threat. The threat that a professional accountant will promote a client or employer's position to the point that the professional accountant objectivity is compromised. Yes, while in promoting our client's position, we must not allow it to compromise our professional position. This is very important. We must not. So, and that is called advocacy threat. The next one is familiarity threat. The threat that, due to a long or close relationship with a client or employer, a professional accountant will be too sympathetic to their interest or too receptive of their work. You know, this happens. We are humans, and when you stay too long in a place, besides staying too long, when you get too familiar with the entities you're supposed to check, your objectivity become kind of a little weak. You're likely not to carry throw the sword, so to say, the way it should be thrown. You understand it? Okay, so that is called familiarity threat. Professionals must do away with it. And the very last one is intimidation threat. The threat that a professional accountant will be deterred from acting objectively because of actual or perceived pressures. When you will face it when your client raises pressure on you, or put pressure on you to not to do the right thing, it's actually called intimidation threat. And the fear of the daily bread, the fear of losing the pay, the fear of losing the job, the fear of losing the account, especially when such a client is the so to say breadwinner of the firm, so to say. There could be some form of intimidation threat. So a way to do away with it is to raise our heads up. In fact, from what we were taught, they said we should plan our exit the moment we enter into agreement with such a client. Plan your exit from the beginning. That will help you. Okay, and that's all about the 5 threats. Let me try and reiterate them. The first one is self-interest. The next one is self-review. The next one is advocacy threat. The next one is familiarity threat. And the very last one, which is not the least, is intimidation threat. I hope you're following. Okay. And that will be all for now. I appreciate you for coming around. And one more time, this is Accounting Education. I'll be bringing more of these classes to us. Please like, follow, and share if you enjoy this class. I appreciate you. See you in my next class.